To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. He's made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he's put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. Did you notice the negative-positive pattern? And if you're old enough, you've seen the ups and downs in life. You've seen times of birth and death. You've seen harvest and famines. You've seen peace and war. You've had times of weeping and mourning and times of laughing and dancing. And the most frustrating part is that we have very little control over any of that. And that's why Solomon begins the whole letter by saying, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. It's like grasping for the wind. It's empty. It's vain. And so why would God make life that way? Well, if we never saw the down times, we never struggled or suffered or wept over anything, would we ever look beyond the sun? And every time and every culture, there's some kind of thought and belief towards the afterlife. And it's not always because of the Bible, but it's because of what he said in verse 11, that God has put eternity in our hearts. And so maybe you're wondering, is there anything after this? Well, here's the good news. We know that there has to be something more. There has to be a time when all those things that make us struggle and suffer and hurt, when all those times are going to be wiped away. And do you know what God does for Christians who are hurting and suffering in this life? He reveals heaven to them, like those in the book of Revelation, where he peeled back the curtain on eternity. And even though it looked like that they were losing all the bodies and the blood of all the martyrs all over the place, there's Christ reigning on the throne. And there's all these martyrs who had suffered and died, and they're there living and reigning with Christ in victory. And they're in this place John could only describe by talking about the most valuable gems and the most precious metals. And the most amazing and awesome part about it is they were in the very presence of the glory of God. How badly do you want to see the glory of God? I mean, really see it. God has prepared heaven for you. He wants you to be there with him. He doesn't want you to be in hell. And he's done everything that he can to make sure that you have a choice in the matter. You see, Jesus died for everybody potentially, but in actuality, he only died for those who are willing to obey and live by the gospel. Let me hear your thoughts. Comment down below.